Okay, I'm going to give my 30 seconds as a pitch, and I'm going to turn the stage to Alex and James. Hi,
Amazing.
everybody. My name is Stella Chan. I am the chair of the Junior and Scholarship Committee at the Samagani Art Club. I am thrilled to welcome you all to our very first webinar. Close to 100 people sign up, but I also realized today is a Yom Kippur, so then some people may not be able to attend. However, they have requested to have the recorded video sent to them, so everyone smile. Anyways, so today I'm super excited to introduce Alex and James, co-founders of Superfine Art Fair, to come and give us a talk about Studio to Market, the artist's guide to sales and growth. You guys are all super talented artists, but the big question is, now what? How do you sell your work? Where do you sell? Should you participate in art fairs? How do you build a customer mailing list or set metrics for pricing your art? These are just some of the key topics that James and Alex will cover today. So yes, like I mentioned before, we have 100 people sign up. We have about 16 participants right now. We probably will have more coming in. So I had to mute everybody just to facilitate order and efficiency. When we get to the Q&A or even during the talk, when you have any questions, please put your questions in the chat box. And once we get to the Q&A, both James and Alex will read them off and answer your questions. If we don't get to your question, or if you have additional questions after the webinar ends, please contact James and book a 15-minute free consultation with him. And James, if you don't mind, you can put the booking link in the chat box so you guys can actually copy it.
Mhm.
And they're very generous to give you this time, so definitely utilize it and definitely strategize with them if joining Superfine Art Fair is a thing for you. Let me see what else. And after the presentation, right before the Q&A, we will let you know how to receive the $300 discount code if you decide to join Superfine Art Fair for next year. I know you guys are all waiting for that because I received over 28 emails asking about that. So, James and Alex, if you guys are okay, you can also drop your emails in the chat box so then people can add you. And anyone who wants to be on Superfine mailing list, you can also share your email in the chat box as well. Okay, that was about 30 seconds. So without further ado, let's welcome Alex and James.
Thank you, Stella.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and I'll go ahead and I'll put that link in the chat in just a moment. I just want to switch it over to a link specifically
Yeah.
for all of you so
And
that
go ahead, James. Sorry.
just so I know when we're jumping on the phone, have a little bit of context of it being one of you here.
And just to give this a little bit of order, we're going to do about 20 minutes of presenting, and then we'll open it up for the remaining 20 to 30 for your questions. We do a weekly Q&A webinar as well, which Stella actually has attended, I believe,
Yes.
which is really fun. So if you like what you see and you schedule a call with James, but also we have these weekly webinars almost every Wednesday. And that format has been really nice. So we're going to kind of let this be pretty open. So we'll talk to you a little bit for about 15, 20 minutes, and then we'll open it up for 20 to 30 for your questions. So a little bit more for the questions. So if that helps everybody. So, cool.
And right here is the Calendly link. So you can click that. I'm sure Stella will send it out after as well in case you missed it. But yeah, you can click that link and then you can book a call with me and we can discuss any other questions that you have about the show. But very cool. Awesome. And Alex, I did end up making some slides for this. So I've got
I saw your text, so thank you.
I have some outline slides. They're very simple,
Okay,
but
I love that.
it gives us something to look at. So
James texted at 10 a.m. and said, "Are we doing slides?" And I said, "I don't know."
Well, I'm glad you guys did.
But yes, I'll go ahead and I'll share my screen so we have that to look at. Let me
Great.
give 1 second. All right, and let me go ahead and make this full screen. All right, can everyone see the slides here? Amazing, awesome. All right, so from studio to market, the artist's guide to sales and growth. We had a lovely introduction, but just real quick, repeating Alex and James, that is the two of us. Alex, anything else that you want to quickly say about yourself?
No, but my hair is not black anymore and I have a beard, but other than that, it's all the same.
Yeah, basically, we're the co-founders of Superfine Art Fair. We've been doing this for over 10 years now. We have had over 30 fairs around the United States. And right now, we're really focused on New York, Washington, D.C., and San Francisco. So those are the three main markets that we have. But looking to have some other shows as well. LA, Chicago, Denver are all on the table. But yeah. And then in terms of the topics that we'll be covering here, here's just a brief outline of those. And Alex, I figured that we could kind of just bounce back and forth whenever one of us has something to talk about. But I figured I could start off with the first
Totally.
one just to kind of get the ball rolling, and then feel free to jump in
Yeah.
whenever you.
Let's just watch the time so that we stick to the 20 minutes and then have the time at the end for the Q&A.
Totally, totally. But cool. Yeah, in terms of benefits and considerations of participating in art fairs. So this is something that we've surveyed a lot in terms of, not only with art fairs, but just where are artists selling their work. So we've asked both artists who have been in Superfine, artists who have not been in Superfine, and then also our visitor audience, people who have come to Superfine before and have been in our orbit. We've surveyed all of them and asked artists where they sell their work, buyers where they buy their work, and 9 out of 10 times it is in person. So that's really the main importance of participating in art fairs and having your work out in the wild, in the world, is having that chance for people to see it in person and connect directly with you. The other thing that ends up being really key at Superfine specifically, it's what Superfine's all about, but it ends up being the case in general, is people love meeting artists directly. And so in terms of fairs, that's a fair like Superfine where you are able to show and sell your own work versus a gallery being the one doing that. You're getting to have that direct connection with the people coming to the show. So that, in a nutshell, that's what I would say are the main benefits of it. But Alex,
Yeah. I mean, we're talking to a group of painters, right? I mean, from my understanding, everyone here is a painter. You can get easily overwhelmed with Instagram and all the other new social media platforms that I'm not on, like TikTok and X and this and that, right? And that can be really overwhelming, especially if you're not native to those platforms. You're like, oh my God, I have to be on them, right? I have to get followers. Doesn't really mean anything. And like I said on a recent webinar that we were all on, it's like one of my favorite slogans the past few weeks has been play stupid games, win stupid prizes. So when you get on Instagram and you're like, I need to get a bunch of followers, I need to like build a community, whatever. Like if that's not translating to actual sales and actual audience who invests and takes your work home, it's just a stupid prize, right? And for some people it works. It's not a one size fits all thing. Some people do build, maybe it's the way their art is, maybe it's the way that they are, whatever, but they can build a buying community through social media. But most people don't, including people who you think do, a lot of them don't. So don't beat yourself up if you're not like maximizing on it. Like you can make that part of your strategy, but make it like something you don't spend a lot of time and energy on. With painting, I buy paintings. I love paintings. I would not buy a painting off of Instagram. Why? Because I can't tell. I can't tell what it looks like. I can't tell how the colors actually go together. I can't tell what the texture of it is. Even if I'm not going to be touching it at home, it's oh, we have a visitor.
yeah, but
Um, even even if I'm not touching a painting, right, I can tell if it has texture or if it's matte or if it's like a charcoal, like a very soft like kind of texture. And those are things that I look for in a piece and how it ties into a room, into the way that I've designed it. So I really truly believe you have to be there with your work in person where people are and where people who are interested in buying your work are, right? And that's what we do. That's what our competitors do. That's what all these in-person art fair experiences do. And we do it in a better way than gallery shows do, because gallery shows, you're not there with your work. And like James said, what people want to do is they want to meet the artist and they want to see the work. If you can give them both, you are many steps ahead of any other artist out there, including the Instagram superstars with 300,000 followers, because you're there right there with a person who's interested in your work. And if you're consistent with that and you make sure that you're continually getting in front of people, you will sell. It sometimes does not happen the first shot. It happens over time because you learn and you put your work up, and and you see if someone comes up and goes, well, that's really great, but it's out of my budget. If 10 people say that, you think, and you say, well, am I willing to compromise on price? Or maybe they say, oh, that's so inexpensive. I bought this and this and this and this. Then you go, can I raise my prices 10%? Like, all of this is stuff you learn when you're there with people one-on-one, and it's just very different. And I would really say, especially for painters over printmakers or photographers, like, your work communicates in real life better than anywhere else. So that's my really, like version of a lot of it's same stuff James said, but just kind of how I view it. Do you want me to take the mailing list, or you got it, James?
Yeah. I was just gonna real quick underscore the importance of that real-time feedback. It ends up with the pricing of your work, with the way that you talk about your work, what the message is behind it. And then also, if you're kind of exploring a couple different routes with your work and you're curious what people are gravitating towards, that is not something that you should be using any type of social media platform for, because the way that people interact with the work online, it's such this like instant gratification, which unfortunately often does not translate well to art, where
Yep.
people are, if it doesn't immediately grab their attention, they might just scroll past, or even if they're liking it, you're really not getting much information. In person, you get that information in really valuable depth.
100%. Like, the likelihood that someone's going to go out of their day or in their time, and like, think about how we interact with our phones. They're just scrolling while doing something else. They're watching TV or reality shows and they're scrolling. The chances that they're going to give you valuable feedback during that time are extremely low. When you're there with a person in real life, it's extremely high. So I'm not saying don't use your digital platforms. Use them to give you a home online, showcase who you are, the way you create your work, how you work. Make it a place where when you meet people, they can follow you and be in touch with you. But think of these in-person experiences as a better, in my opinion, a better conduit to your audience.
Yeah.
It's a good segue, because I do think a really important digital side of your career is your mailing list, right? And I'm going to do it like ABCs, really basic. So if anybody, if I'm preaching to the choir, like, stop me, but this is how you should see it, right? Anybody who buys your art, anybody who buys any art you've created, whether you've made a $15 print that you're selling at a craft show, or whether you just sold a $15,000 or $50,000 painting, everybody who buys your art, anything you've created, should be on your mailing list, 100,000%. People miss that half the time, especially when they're pricing their work really well and people are buying it left and right. They get caught up. Like, I had a garage sale 2 weeks ago. It was really fun. I made a spreadsheet for it. I did not follow the spreadsheet because people were like, $5, $10, $50. It was really fun. At the end of the day, if I were trying to replicate that, I couldn't. Granted, I don't want to, because I don't want to do another garage sale. But you want to build your base, right? You want people to buy again and again and again. Make sure that your buyers end up on a mailing list. I would go so far as to say anybody who buys your art is on their own mailing list, right? And possibly you're keeping their information on a spreadsheet as well. You're keeping their name, their email address, their social media handle. I'm an Instagram person. If you use Facebook, maybe that's what I don't know. Instagram handle. If you can get their mailing address, that's amazing. If you can find an organic way to collect that at the time of purchase, like either maybe you're sending them the piece, or you're like, hey, I send out annual greeting cards. I'd love to get your mailing address. Many people will say yes. Get that. Do get that. Like, that information, you don't need much more than that. Super helpful. You can send them a greeting card at the end of the year saying, I appreciate you as a client this year. So excited that you have my work in your home. Wishing you a wonderful next year, 2025, I guess. So I love that. I love the physical touches. A lot of the marketing that I'm doing right now, I'm going back physical. Like, I'm going like signs, lawn signs, personal invitations. Like, we've been inundated with digital for years, and people are pulling back a little. So getting that extra bit of info, super helpful. So buyers, people who bought something, even if your list starts with 2 people on that spreadsheet, well, then you get 2 more, it's 4, and then you get 2 more and it's 6. Pretty soon you've got 30, 40, 50, 100, right? And then you get the fun part, which is like, how do I leverage these buyers to make more buyers? Well, when you're having a show in a city where those people live, invite them and ask them if they know anyone else who's interested in buying art that would like to come to the show. Make them your ambassadors, make them your salespeople. They've already invested in you and your work. Have them help out a little bit, right? That's a way you can expand from the people who've already bought your art. People who bought your art will also buy your art again. And one of the things that I've heard a long time ago and I love is that the best advertisement an artist can buy is having your art in a person's home, right? Think about it. We go nuts thinking like, oh, I need to be on Instagram. How do I run meta ads? How do I do this? How do I do that? Whatever. Having your art on someone's wall is something they see every single day. And the next time they have a new wall, whether they buy another home or whether they redecorate or whatever it may be, like when they have a new wall, the first people they're thinking about are the ones that are already on their walls. So getting your art to people's homes and being in touch with them on a regular basis via email and via physical mail is an amazing way to generate more clients from your existing clients. So, okay, we've got your people who bought your art, they get their own mailing list, right? People who've demonstrated serious interest in your art get a mailing list too. So when you do an art fair, you're going to get email addresses and names. You're going to have a notebook, a piece of paper, an iPad, some form of gathering names and email addresses. All right. In this case, I wouldn't be asking for home addresses, only when someone buys your art, but an email address and name. All right. They go on to an interested potential buyer list, right? You can call it what you want, but that's what it is. Interested potential buyer. You'll send them regular updates, at least quarterly. If you want to benchmark, we get artists all the time asking, how frequently should I send? How frequently should I send? At least quarterly. If you have so many wonderful things happening in your career, like real newsworthy, incredible things that you could do a weekly, you could, but don't let that stress you out. Do it at least quarterly. And when you're writing those, think about what are the most interesting, exciting developments that I've had in the last few months, right? And they could be, I created a new series. I was walking down, a mountain path and I saw these butterflies and I decided to create a series around it because I was inspired by, whatever it may be. Like that's newsworthy. Or something like I was juried into an exhibition, or I've signed up for Superfine Art Fair, or like I won a prize. Whatever has happened, I'm sure something will happen. I'm sure. If you can't think of it right now, I'm sure in 3 months something will happen that's newsworthy to people who like your art, right? So quarterly, start with that. If you can do more, but only if you have that much newsworthy stuff, right? And those are the really most important ones. I don't think you need other mailing lists. I don't think you definitely don't need to buy a mailing list. Do not do that. If you're juried into something, or if a magazine selects you and they feature you, that's great. And then you should echo that. That becomes a piece of news that you share on all of your platforms. But don't buy a mailing list. If someone says, I've got 50,000 names, I'll give them to you. Why? Because those people didn't sign up for what you're offering. They don't care. They have no intent. So it's your waste of money. Don't do it. We get a question at the fairs a lot, like, should I do a giveaway? And then I get more emails that way. The risk is that there's such a high incentive and low barrier to entry that there's less interest. So they're like signing up for your mailing list, but they don't really want to be on it. So I say put a small barrier, one thing James suggests, which I really like, is you have a really nice high quality postcard, like a little better than your average postcard. Maybe it's on matte paper, little thicker cardstock. Like it's really nice, right? It costs you a little bit more money to make. Okay. Rather than like the bulk 5,000 glossy thing that I fold up and put in my pocket. And I do have some in my pocket right now. So you don't want to be that. You do something nicer and only get 200 of them and put them, in a little bit like on your wall, but like not where they're easily grabbable. When someone asks for one, say, I'd love to give you one. I just would like your email address, right? And that's like a small barrier where only interested people are going to do it. Some people will say no, but the ones who say yes are more interested. So these are your two mailing lists, buyers and serious potential buyers. Don't worry about how small they are. Don't worry if there's 2 on the first one and 10 on the second one. The more you do, the more you put yourself out there, the more it grows. And you don't need 10,000 people to be a successful artist. You need like 100 consistent buyers over time. And that's even less. So that's mailing lists. And do the physical thing. If you can get people's home addresses, send them a greeting card. It doesn't have to be end of year. It doesn't have to be the holidays. It could be summer, whatever. It could be the solstice, but just send them a greeting card and tell them, you're excited to have them as a collector. Also, you should maybe send that about a month after they buy your art. So they have it, they framed it, they've hung it, they're living with it. Send them a card. That's a lovely thing. And you don't get a lot of them anymore. So, I mean, I keep every card I receive. I have a whole drawer full of them. Um,
May
yeah,
I add something to
sure.
this? From an
Absolutely.
artist's point of view. So last year, 2023, I actually exhibited at Superfine. And just to give you an idea how it went. So when I went there, my mailing list was just about, I would say, probably 800 real life buyers. And I accumulated them by doing a lot of pop-ups and other art fairs leading up to Superfine. In 4 days' time, I pretty much organically gained almost 200 brand new buyers. Not all
Wow.
of them bought, not all of them bought. I would say out of almost 200, probably 10% of them actually bought something from me. But here is to what Alex was saying. I follow up with them after the show. I, wrote them nice emails thanking them for showing up. And for the ones who bought from me, I actually, I kind of joke around and said that, after it's framed and hanging on your wall, please tag me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, so that I can serenade you. I create little reels to serenade them. They loved it. They actually started tagging me and then brought up the traffic there. But the most important thing is the ones who didn't buy from me, they came back 2, 3 weeks, even months after the show, and they bought from me. And
Mhm.
that was 2023. So I actually made after show sales after that. So 2024, some of them are still emailing me, asking me, are you gonna be at Superfine this year? I'm like, sure, if they do a show this year, I'll be there. So I'm waiting till next year because there's no New York show this year. So the power of the mailing list actually goes beyond that one particular show. It will reverberate, and you never know when these buyers will
Totally.
come back.
I
That's
have
my 2 cents.
No, that was amazing, Selen. Thank you for sharing that. We love those kinds of stories. I have one more point on the topic, and then if it's okay, James, I'll take the next one, and then you take the following two, which I think you're gonna do really well. So, um, my last point what you said, Stella, is like, why does that happen? Why do people buy after art fairs, right? And we get that a lot. Like I'll be honest, like we've had fairs where like an artist will go through the fair and they won't sell as much as they want, and at the end, like some of them are like, that's okay, it's great, I'm gonna sell in from the connections I've made here, right? Some are like, oh, I expected to like sell everything during the fair. Why does that not happen? And it does sometimes, by the way, like booths sell out completely, but sometimes it doesn't. Why not? Because art is expensive. And think of your own habits as a person, as a buyer of things in the world. Like, what do you buy easily? Toothpaste, $5, like coffee, $6 if you live not in New York, 10 if you live in New York. You buy things like that are 5, 10, 15, 20, $25. You buy your groceries, you spend $100 at the grocery store. What do you think about a little more? Things that cost basically the more they cost, the more you think about them, right? If a piece of clothing is $30 from Zara, buy it, right? If it's $300 from Neiman Marcus, you think about it. So art is a think about it purchase. And it's not usually an impulse buy. No matter how rich someone is, no matter how much disposable income they have, it's not usually an impulse buy. When it is, that's like amazing, but it's not often. So you have to stick with them and they have to stick with you. So your job at an in-person event is more than selling, is making those connections and making sure that they're two ways by collecting their email addresses and giving them something to remember you by. So if you can do both, I don't recommend is that you just give things out. So like if you just hand out 3,000 business cards, one of them might come back. They do sometimes, one. But if you hand out 30 business cards and you get 30 emails, your chances are much higher than if you gave out 1,000 just one way. Make it two ways. Get their info. Don't feel bad about getting their info. They're coming to an event because there's art for sale. They like your art. You're having the conversation. So their job is looking at art and maybe buying it. Your job is gathering their information and selling to them. It's just that's the nature of it. I know it can feel daunting and you can feel shy or you can feel like you don't want to like overwhelm people, but again, they're there for it. So just very friendly. Can I grab your email? Or, in the postcard example, like I've got these postcards. Would you like one? And then grab your email. Very simple, very casual. And if they say no, it's like, okay, thank you so much. Not a big deal. The next person will say yes. But yeah, that's why people don't always buy art in person, like, because it does take some thinking. Okay, so metrics for evaluating art sales and pricing. So we're talking about art sales, what we just talked about here. Really, when you're in an in-person event like a fair, it really does come down to like how many potential buyers and buyers did you generate versus what was the dollar value. I know that's hard to swallow because you're like, okay, I've got to pay, I've got expenses, I've got travel, I've got shipping, I've got like hanging, right? Totally get that. But you're going to have the best success long term if you gauge your success on number of new buyers and number of potential buyers. And that ties nicely to the mailing list, right? Because those are like the numbers that you get are going to be what you look at and go, that was really successful. If you're let me give you an example. If you're an artist and you do 4 in-person art events per year, art fairs, whatever, right? And at each one of them, we're going to go low. You generate 50 mailing list signups and you sell 5 pieces, right? We said four events. So now you have 20 pieces sold and you have 200 new mailing list subscribers, right? I would be hard pressed to say that that year will not be more successful than the previous year, because that is a lot of people that you will now sell to. And if you repeat that over 5 years, you're up to 1,000 and the other number goes up too. So it's really looking at those numbers and being like, okay, I'm striving by end of year to reach this many new clients, not I'm striving to make $200,000, because that's so abstract. It's really hard to reach that. Even if the product of reaching the goal of new buyers is the money, when you simply set the money goal, it's a lot harder to reach. We call that in marketing KPI, so your key performance indicator. So rather than focusing on the money side, you focus on an achievable thing, something tangible. How many people did I talk to? How many people did I get their email? How many people did I send an email to after the event, right? Those things are all in your power. The money is kind of in your power. It's more of a byproduct of the middle thing, the KPI. So every brand, every marketer focuses on a KPI and a key performance indicator. It's like the bobber when you go fishing, right? It's the thing that goes up and down that you pay attention to. You know, you don't know what's happening at the bottom on the hook. You look at the bobber. So this is how you pay attention to your results. That's how I would evaluate sales. In terms of pricing your work, this is something very interesting because it totally depends on you, your work, the appetite in the market at the time. It's not a fixed thing. I will dispel a couple myths here. There is a myth that you should never ever lower your prices. That's a myth because nobody is truly paying attention. So you can. Now, what I say is don't do that during an event or during a fair, right? Don't do it in a way that's like, oh my God, I came on day one and I had everything for $5,000 and now flash sale, it's all half off. That just smells like desperation and it reads awkwardly to the buyers. If you've come in, do your research before, stick to it during the event you're in. But if over time the economy fluctuates, like the world fluctuates, you have to fluctuate with it. So do fluctuate as needed because there isn't this like overlord eye of the art world watching you. Nobody knows, nobody cares. And that's you can really like live in that anonymity for a while, like until you're like breaking auction records. That point maybe you pay attention, but in the interim, and most people are like just pay attention to the forces around you. A big one right now, and we talk about this a lot, is right now, the macroeconomic conditions in the United States are different than they were in 2021 and 2022. The mortgage interest rates were extremely low. People bought houses, they filled them with art. They had been indoors for 18 months and they were bored. And so they were like, and they had a lot of money. So there was like, it was flowing freely. And now I don't think things are bad. I just think they've returned more to what they were previous to that. So right now is a great time. If you have smaller works, if you have more accessibly priced works, this is a great time to start placing those and to start building buyers rather than thinking like, okay, I'm going to put like my biggest, most expensive stuff out there. This is not a market for that. The most price sensitive people are the wealthiest people because they stand the most to lose when the economy fluctuates. So they actually tighten up more than the middle class does. So you'll like if you're putting big expensive pieces and you're targeting like a really affluent buyer, those are the folks that are not really spending money the way they were. So it's a great time to cultivate your less affected, like honestly, the upper middle class, which is like kind of our bread and butter with Superfine, is less affected by the economic fluctuations. And so if you're putting those works out that are like 500 to 2,500 and have like some really cool little works under 500, those are the things that are going to sell. And then if you're following everything, this has been actually a great list, James, because everything feeds into everything else. If you're selling that $300 work, don't think of it as like, we sold $300. Think of it as, I got a client. I got someone on that list, that special list that started with 2 people and now has 5, now has 10, now has 20. I got a client. And that client, interest rates drop, people get promotions, the world changes. At the next phase, when they're like, and they get older and they settle down and they buy a second home or a first home, right? You have a client, that person will buy from you the next time too. So really, I mean, there's no hard and fast rule to art pricing, but really having a range and also leaning into what you're seeing. And it's going to vary from event to event, from city to city, to, everything's going to vary. So really just paying attention, talk to other artists. Like Stella had great insights on Superfine New York. Talk to other artists and find out like what's working and what price points are selling, and try to be not only in the range, but correlation in terms of size and complexity of work as well. So like if someone's selling, I don't know, 11 by 14 works for $700, right? Don't be like, oh, great, 700 is a great price, I'm going to sell like a 3 by 3 inch thing, right? You're trying to correlate also to like roughly to the size and complexity of works they're selling and similar price ranges. Happy to answer questions about that at the end as well. I'm going to pass it over to James for time. So here we go.
Okay. Yeah, and actually what I wanted to mention on the topics that we were just talking about feeds really nicely into the next topic. So yes, you're absolutely right, Alex. I think this list kind of is organized pretty nicely.
Very good.
But yeah, so in terms of marketing your work while preserving authenticity. So first off, what we're talking about here is a lot of artists are concerned that when they get to the business marketing side of their art, suddenly their work is no longer authentic. They're not making, the like truly meaningful art that would also be placed in a museum or something like that, right? It's like it feels like they're mutually exclusive. Now, they're not, and that's the wonderful thing. And the other nice thing is that when you're not trying to focus on a marketing strategy that is exclusively focused on numbers, the way that Alex was saying, that means that you can be more authentic, right? And so let's say you have an in-person exhibition, you're at a fair like Superfine, you have a solo show at in an exhibition space, whatever the case may be. If you are focused on, going back to the previous topic, if you're focused on gathering emails, you're focused on making connections with people rather than the numbers. Like, oh, I'm looking to, whether it's like gain 1,000 followers on Instagram, or I'm looking to sell out my entire booth, or I'm looking to get like 500 email subscribers versus like, again, 50 high intent subscribers is way better than 500 like just sort of like, oh sure, why not, I'll put my email, I'm never going to look at it, right? And so what your newsletter and your Instagram or social media or whatever your communication channels are, those become a touch point for the people that you've connected with. So rather than looking at Instagram and saying, why don't I have 10, 20, 100,000 followers, right? If you're looking at it as like, okay, I have 200 followers, I have 1,200 followers, whatever your number is, right? If that is your opportunity to keep in touch with someone that you met at an exhibition, that means that rather than you meeting someone, you had a great 10, 15-minute conversation, and then it kind of like starts to fade as time goes on, you're keeping that conversation alive. And that's what you should be using Instagram and your newsletter for, and any other, like, handwritten card like that, especially if you don't really want to be like, trudging along on Instagram and like trying to do all these like trends and posting 5 times a week and everything to try and like gain followers, right? That's what you should be using the platforms as, which is, first of all, way less stressful, which is nice. And also you get to really be true to yourself, unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, but with Instagram, when you have your art and then you have what you're posting on Instagram, oftentimes for artists, they're two different things. So you shouldn't, with your artwork, it may or may not resonate on a social media post. It basically, what you're posting is more of content, right? And so rather than thinking, oh, my art needs to be good for Instagram, think, no, I'm going to keep my art authentic. And what I put on Instagram, I need to think about the content there, right? So a good example is, for a lot of artists, having videos that are showing the process behind their work, like close-ups of them painting, or I've seen like a lot of videos where someone who was painting where they had painter's tape along the edge of their work, and then they have like a close-up video where they are like peeling back this painter's tape. Something like that ends up being very satisfying, and people love seeing these little like behind the scenes moments with your art. And so things like that, you can have videos like that on Instagram, and that'll be something that someone who loved your work in person, they'll get really excited when they get a chance to see some of the behind the scenes of it. Alex, you look like you want to say
Yeah,
something.
I just want to share an anecdote, and also just speak again one more time to the like thinking of the main metric you're focusing on being like people versus money, and why that works, right? So when you have a money goal and you don't meet it, your brain gets like a negative hormone like boost, or like it's like the opposite. You're like dejected, it's sad, right? But when you have a people goal, like you're reaching that goal, or you have another goal that's really tangible, you reach that goal and it gives you like a serotonin boost and your oxytocin boost, and you feel happy, right? And you feel good, you feel like you've done something that works better, right? And I'll share a small anecdote. It's like related but tangential. I consult for another event company, and we have an event this week. We have a sponsor, a big sponsor, major like Fortune 500 company. And I had a lunch with the exec from that company yesterday, and he confided that they need a 4x ROI from events they sponsor, 4-time return on investment. So if they spend $25,000, they need to make 100,000 to continue doing it, right? And he's telling me the last time he sponsored a similar event, they didn't make that. They're not going to do it again. I was like, damn. So we need to like figure out a way here. So I told him, look, don't focus on money, focus on meaningful connections. So tonight at this event, you're going to make 4 meaningful connections. He said, really? I said, yeah. So we did it last night. We made those 4, and the deal size for each person is about $25,000 to $35,000. So those 4 connections are better than what he did the last time they sponsored a similar event. So thinking about a goal of being like, I'm going to have meaningful 15 to 20-minute conversations with 4 people at a cocktail party. That's easy to do. We do that anyway. We already go to cocktail parties and have 20-minute conversations. Think about if you made that your goal and you said, I'm not gonna make $100,000 tonight. I'm going to have 4 20-minute conversations with serious interested buyers of what I'm selling. That's doable. Even for a big company with lots of money or an individual artist selling art, it gives you that really tangible goal. And I love that. So I mean, everything James said about like making those your goals and how you like move people over to your social media and then reinforce yourself as the person they met, rather than like thinking of it as like this way that you just like your numbers go up and your money goes up. It's so much better way of looking at it. So I hope that was a helpful anecdote and not a confusing one. But if it was, let me know. Sorry.
The other thing that I'll say that's kind of related to that, and this is not the 80-20 rule, it just happens to be 80%, 20%. But there's kind of a general rule of thumb that whether it's social media or it's your newsletter or it's a personal touch point with someone, right? Basically, there should be about 80% of what you're sending out or your conversations should not be sales focused. They should not be pushing. And then 20% should be, yes, you can sell, you can buy my art, please buy it, right? And so basically, when you are a little too focused on trying to sell your work, it does come off pushy, salesy, and it becomes less authentic, right? And so when you are not so worried about about talking about selling your work, you will end up selling more work. And that also means that you get to be authentic to your art practice itself, because you're not just, becoming like a salesperson for your art. You get to also talk about what's important about it, because that's what people are really excited about. That's why they're buying your art instead of buying something that's less expensive and kind of more strictly decorative. It's because of the story behind it and the authenticity to it. So stay authentic. It helps. Next rule, the actual 80-20 rule. And Alex, feel free to correct me on the exact terminology of it, but basically, 80% of your results come from 20% of what you do. That is what the 80-20 rule is. And so basically,
Beautifully said. That's exactly
oh,
what it is. Yeah.
thank you.
Great.
So 80% of what you, 80% of your results come from 20% of what you do. Again, this is good news. This is something that you should feel a bit of relief from, right? Is that you don't need to do everything. No, and not every artist, not every business is going to have the same 20% of things that work. It's not like newsletters, Instagram, or newsletters, art fairs, or or Instagram art fairs, whatever it is. It's going to be different for each person. So see what ends up working for you. See what you keep showing up to and what you're consistent with, because it doesn't feel like pulling teeth for you, and where you are seeing those results. Because at the end of the day, a lot of times what happens is when someone is really starting to get focused on the business side of their art or whatever it is that they're doing, they end up feeling like they have to do everything. They're like, oh my goodness, like I have to be doing a newsletter a week, and I have to be doing like 5 Instagram posts a week, and just all this stuff, right? There's not enough hours in the day for that, especially to then also be making art, right? Which is why this is what you do. And so basically, take stock of what is actually working well for you, assess that, go back. What I would recommend is any amount of sales history that you have, or any amount of other KPI history that you have, like Alex mentioned, like number of times that you had a conversation where that person might buy art from you, right? Or the number of times that you've added someone to your mailing list, things like that. Look at where that's actually coming from, like take inventory of it and look at it and see, is it that, okay, yes, this one thing was a lot of work, but it didn't really have many results. This other thing, I enjoyed doing it. It was pretty manageable and easy enough to do, and I got more results from it. Focus on that. It's a little bit of, in a good way, putting more eggs into fewer baskets. Not just one basket, but a few different baskets, so that it's not relying on one thing. But definitely, focusing in so that you're not spreading yourself too thinly. That's basically what it's all about. But yeah, and then we've got the last topic. I know that we mentioned it a little bit before, but you wanna jump on that?
Yeah, I'm gonna give a very quick one. I have a hard 12 out. I'm gonna stay till 12:05. So we have some questions here. So let me do a very quick synopsis of this, the changing landscape of the art world. It's a big topic, but I'll give you guys a really quick one. The power is shifting to the artists. Take it. Take it. It's shifting to you. Take it. That's my advice. Are galleries going to not exist? They will exist, but they don't have the power. The artists have the power right now. So really think about that, whether you choose to work with them at times or whether you choose to take, do your own events. really understand that the power's with you. The buyers are not like, the buyers care more about you. They care more about your story. They care more about how you make your work. They don't care about who you exhibited with. They don't care about they don't really care too much about your MFA. They care about you, your work, and your story behind it, right? And that's good. That's more about what art is. It's communication. It's not, pulling the wool over someone's eyes and telling them that something's more valuable than it is. It's showing who you are, and it's communicating. So it's a return to authenticity, and that's echoed everywhere. Everything in the world, from food to art to music, is that right now. And so lean into it, don't run away from it, and you will do really well in the new art market. So
Beautiful.
that's the cap. Let's
Um,
questions.
I think before questions, I think Stella, you wanted us to just quickly go over the offers.
Yes, I received way too many emails asking about how to receive the $300 discount if they decide to join Superfine 2025.
I'll go over it super duper quick and then
Okay.
we'll switch back to questions. So first off, you have access to a free 15-minute virtual one-on-one business assessment with either Alex or myself. So you can use that Calendly link that I sent. Basically, if you have any questions about Superfine and you want to talk about that, we definitely can as well. But besides that, we'll take a kind of a deeper dive on your artwork itself, and we'll be talking about what we can do for your business. So you have that Calendly link, Stella. I'm sure you'll send it out after as
Yes.
well. In terms of the organized tour during Superfine, so you'll be receiving more information about that as that comes up, as you see in Q1 of next year. But basically, our fair is April 24 to 27 in New York. And we'll be organizing a tour of the show so that we can show you some of the artwork there. And then also it'll kind of be like a nice full circle to this conversation. And then lastly, I know that Stella, you mentioned that there was a lot of questions about it. So
Yeah.
there's a $300 booth discount for any of you Salmagundi artists. And basically, it's super easy. If you're moving forward with the application process, in the application, there's a spot where it asks how you heard about Superfine, and then there's a spot that mentions, oh, do you have a promo code? In either spot, just mention Salmagundi, and you'll automatically receive the $300 discount. That'll be reflected in the welcome email once we've reviewed your application and we're moving forward. So that's all you have to do. Just mention Salmagundi in your application in either spot.
And James will drop the link to the application into the chat now. And I think we can also send it in an email after. And I just want to note that since we're doing these 15-minute, and since I was late and I have to leave at 12:05, if you have questions specifically for me, we both have different insights. We've shared this business for many years, so we have different insights into the art world and how it works for you. You have specific ones for me on marketing, communications, email lists, things like that. Copywriting, anything like that, I'm more than happy to take those meetings as my also, because I'm sorry that I won't be able to stay too long for the questions now. It was just too interesting of a presentation.
I'm happy to stay like an extra
Yeah,
5 minutes
great.
after if there's any residual questions. But Alex, do you want to like maybe like flip through
Totally.
any of the
I have a couple quick answers to the questions I see here right now. So, Stella, you asked about commissioned portraiture and using art fairs to promote your services, and how would you recommend approaching visiting buyers? The answer is 100%. If you do commissioned portraiture, if you don't do it and you don't want to do it, don't do it. That's really clear. Like, people who try to do commissions, who are not typically commissioned people, don't enjoy it, and it doesn't really do anything. But if you like commissions and you do them anyway, definitely advertise that at a fair. Make a little sign that's on brand, very bold, but like not distracting. That's clear, like what you see here. I offer custom artwork and commissions as well. Pricing variable, or if you have a pricing structure, you can include that and have like either a QR or something to that effect. You should have a page on your website that details how you work with commissions or custom artwork. I say custom artwork because I like that term a lot, but because commission, not everybody knows it if you're not in the art world. So custom artwork, people understand if they're not in the art world. Commissions, people know if they are. So you should 1000%, if you do them, remember, if you do them, if you don't want to do them, don't, it's not your 80-20, right? Like James said, But if you do commissions, you need a page on your website that details how you work with people on commissions. If you want to put pricing, you can. If you don't have to, but make sure it's clear and that there's a clear call to action there. Email me to get a quote for your commission, right? And then that way, when you're in person at the fairs, you can have a QR code, which is easy to generate online, or a link, and you could do both, to that page on your website where people can learn more about your commissions. Absolutely, you should be using the art fairs and events to promote the fact that you do commissions and getting more commissions that way. That's amazing. Nikki, you have a lot of questions. They're all easy answers though. Is it a juried application process? Yes, we look over every application. It's not an outside jury, it's internal. So it's myself, James, and the rest of our team look over every application to see if the work fits and if the professionalism of the artist fits the fair. This is for New York. We've been doing it since 2017 with the exception of 2020. So 17, 18, 19, 21, 22, 23, 24, 7? This will be our, I don't know, I didn't use my thumb. So I think it's 7. This will be our 8th show in New York. The number of artists is variable. This year will probably be about 100, 120, depending basically what venue we confirm. If we confirm a larger venue, it might go up to a maximum of 120. It doesn't get larger than that. Our last fair, I think, was 110. And how many attendees? About 4,000. How is it advertised? We do a lot of digital advertising with Meta, with Instagram and Facebook. That's very different from posting. So we're not necessarily just posting about it. We're doing very targeted digital marketing to the audiences that are most likely to buy work from you. We also have been, like I said, we're pulling a little towards physical and towards partnerships like the one we have now with Samagundi. We're partnering with arts organizations, cultural organizations, and non-cultural organizations like ERGs, which are employee resource groups at major Fortune 500 companies, where they offer things to their employees that are culturally stimulating and exciting so that they don't get bored with their jobs. And so we work with them to bring, people from the finance community. We work with Open Finance, which is 45 banks throughout New York. It's all LGBTQ, but there's also a corollary that's not. So really that's a big component for us, as are, things like Soho House, it's Samagundi, and any kind of organizations where people are looking for a little extra programming outside of the physical locations where they work or hang out. That's a big thing in addition to the Meta advertising. We don't do a whole lot of print advertising, but we do physical advertising. We did digital billboards last year. We do billboards in the subway. We're talking about doing advertising inside the PATH train this year because a lot of folks come in from New Jersey where they own big houses. And so we want to appeal to them as well. And so hopefully that answers your questions, Nikki. Brian, if you've never participated in art fair, is starting at the Superfine level too much? No, not really. What I would suggest is you book the call with, actually, I would say you book the call with James. Talk to James a little bit about what like first-time artists do at the fair. We've had first-time artists who follow everything, all of our, advice, and they rock it from the gate, the first show, right? And you've had artists who've done 50 shows who like don't follow advice and then they don't do well. So really a lot of it comes down to like understanding the ecosystem of this event, this individual art event, and listening to what we say. We're very clear. I mean, as you might have gathered from this webinar, we have a lot of experience and we're very clear, and your success is our success. We don't get anything. If you guys buy a booth from us one time and it's like a terrible experience, we don't get anything because we have to go out and find another person like you, and that costs time and money. So we want you to become a regular client of ours, which means you need to do well with our shows and find ways to make the most you can out of them. So yeah, we're going to give you the best advice. And honestly, if you weren't a fit for whatever reason, we'll be honest with you as well. So definitely book that call with James to find out. I can't say categorically. It's a great place to start, I think, as a first time fair.
Just real quick, chiming in on that. Basically, Superfine is all emerging to mid-career level artists, and I would say more so in terms of your career than it is the artwork itself. Basically, there's artists that are really, they have really just like strong art MFA programs, but they're very new to showing and selling their art. And so Superfine's a really good fit for them because besides the fair itself, it also ends up being an educational experience leading up to the show, really focused on showing and selling your art in person. So I would say, especially if if the quality of your art is there, you just don't have exhibition experience, Superfine's a really good place to start.
100%.
Yeah, back to you, Alex, if you
Yeah,
want to.
thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going to answer the next question, and then if it's okay with you, James, if you could take the rest, and then if anyone has any more like marketing strategy questions, feel free to book that call with me. So William had asked if it's okay to hand off marketing of your art to someone else. Will this make the marketing feel less authentic? I will suggest that you do it yourself, at least to start, so that you know how to do it. It's very hard for some marketing. Art is not easy because it's such an individual thing. It's so unique to you, that it's not like, oh, I've got this like thing, this like new type of Tupperware, right? Like they're like, oh, so you hand it off to a marketing company. It's so particular to you and your story that that is what people are buying. So don't be intimidated by the word marketing, right? This is not you sitting down with like a team of people and 10 computers and deciding like 12 different things. If you followed like the way that we went through this presentation, we're talking about 80-20. So finding the 20% of things you can do that create the 80% of your results, right? That could be 2 or 3 valuable things you do. We're talking about doing in-person events where you talk to people, you tell them about your work, and you gather their information. And that can be difficult. I agree. Putting yourself out there, everyone is somewhere on the introvert to extrovert spectrum, and it's difficult, right? But finding your way of relating to people about your work is going to help you as an artist, and it's going to help you understand how people relate to your work. Getting that information filtered through a third party is never going to give you the same benefit. So I suggest doing this yourself. And then at some point, if you feel like there's a gap, like something within that strategy where another person or company can help you, bringing on that person or company. What can help you, I will say, is having someone coach you in the best ways to position yourself. So there are people that do that, people in our network like Marina Granger, the Artist Advisory, the Kat Popova from Create Magazine. There are quite a few people who do artist coaching or artist advising. I do think that's valuable. That's like the give a person a fish versus teach them to fish kind of thing. I would suggest being taught to fish versus like just going out and buying fish. So at least at first, and then at some point you're just selling left and right. You've got it dialed in. You know exactly what's working. At that point, maybe you start to pawn things off to others, and then you start to refocus. But you may find it a rewarding thing as well to be the person who's dealing with your audience. I think you will. All right. I'm so sorry, everybody. I do have to run. I have a meeting. But it was
Thank
really
you
lovely.
so much.
You're welcome. It was lovely seeing everybody, and thank you so much for your time. James is gonna stay around for a little while and answer any questions you have. And then again, we're both available for those calls, and we'll share the links for those. So
All right.
All
Thank you
right,
so
bye,
much.
Alex.
Bye,
Thank you.
Alex.
bye, everybody. Thank you, Stella. Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just one other note on kind of holding on to your own marketing. What I would recommend is even if and when you do eventually pass it off to someone else, I would try to keep your organic social media like under your own umbrella. Like basically if you are doing advertised posts where you're actually paying to be having those posts go out, you could pass that off to someone else who is like super skilled in like audience identifying and basically like actually marketing those posts. But I would still keep the social media posts that you're doing directly to your audience. It's more organic, you're not paying for it. I would try to keep that under your own umbrella where you're still doing it, just because that's the part that's kind of most important to keep authentic. There's ways that you can have it be where those paid posts, they feel a little more like, okay, like here's the moment to buy the art, and that's okay if that's kind of being passed off to someone else. But really, at the end of the day, people want to be hearing your story about you. So I would try to keep that to yourself if you have the time. But moving on, William, oh no, that was your question, William. And then Stella, you had a question from an email. Can 2 artists share a booth at Superfine or 1 artist per booth? So yes, 2 artists can share a booth. It just has to be a 16-foot booth or larger. So our booths, they start at 8 linear feet wide, and then they go up to like 32 feet wide, for artists who have gigantic work. And so basically with a 16-foot booth, the price of a 16-foot booth versus the cost of two 8-foot booths, you are already saving, I think, like $600 right there. So there's definitely some savings built in when you're sharing a larger booth with an artist. So you can definitely 16 feet or larger, share with an artist. And then I sent all these links. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let me see. Was there any other questions? That might have actually been it. I think that was it on questions. Am I missing any, Stella? Or I think
No, I think that's it.
it's just a lot
Anybody
of
else
thank
have
yous.
anything? This is
Oh, what was
your chance.
that? Oh, yes, yes. Going once, going twice
Going
on.
twice. This is your chance to ask any questions. There are no stupid questions at all. I
And
think this
while
is it. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, while potentially someone's typing out one last question. Again,
Oh, here it is.
there we go. Link to the recording. I'll let you
Oh,
answer.
yes. I will be sharing the link. I will email the link of this recorded webinar either on Monday or Tuesday once I get them. So you guys will receive an email from me. I will also include all the website links, the application link, and the booking link with you guys. So don't worry about it. You'll receive it either on Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah, awesome. And then we have one more question here. But yeah, basically, if anyone else has any other questions, you want to just dive through a handful of questions with me or Alex, then definitely feel free to book that call and happy to chat. But Jean-Claude is asking, how many pieces must you have prepared to exhibit? So there's no hard and fast uh like minimum or maximum. What I recommend is having somewhere between 8 and 15 pieces in a variety of different sizes and price points ready to go. So basically, if those all fit in your booth at once, amazing. But there's usually storage on site. So if you're only able to fit 8 in the booth and you have 15 that you want to show, you can have those handful of extra pieces ready to swap in as pieces sell. But 8 to 15 ends up working really well just because it's not so many pieces that people get choice anxiety, but it's also enough pieces that people are really getting a sense of the breadth of your work. They're getting to see like your portfolio, if you will, on the wall. So 8 to 15 is a really good number. And again, having that size and price variety, everything that we were talking about before about like the impulse level that someone has with purchasing art, you're giving people that opportunity to see your most expensive pieces and also your least expensive. So let's say, someone is on the market, they're looking to buy more expensive work, but they're not going to buy it then and there because it's a big decision, even if they're a billionaire, right? And so you having those smaller pieces gives them a chance to walk away with something, and then maybe a few weeks from then they're like, okay, yeah, we want to buy a large piece. We just saw all these artists at Superfine. Who are we going to buy an artwork from, right? And if they already bought a print or a smaller work from you, and then they've seen your larger work, they know that you like your that they like your larger work and that you're capable of making those large pieces, then you're going to be top of mind for them. And then also someone walks in and they came in with the budget ahead of time. They know that they're going to spend $5,000 on a larger piece. Then you also have that available. There are those large sales. I've sometimes been the one packing art at the packing station, and I've packed, like 8 foot by 8 foot wide pieces before. It's pretty fun. But yeah, so that's what I would recommend. 8 to 15, long story short. All right. Well, I think that let's go ahead and wrap it up there then.
Yeah, thank you guys so
Um,
much. And thank you so much, James, for coming.
Absolutely.
This is so
Of course.
helpful. Yeah, I'm reading everybody's email. Once again, if you guys would like to book a private conversation with James or Alex, the link is there. And yeah, so let's stay tuned. Hopefully we can do the tour in 2025. And then if you guys have any questions in between, just email me. You know my emails and stuff. All right.
Awesome. Thank you
All
again
right.
for
Thank you
for
so much.
organizing.
Bye, everyone. Have a
Bye,
wonderful
everyone.
weekend.
And see you all
Okay.
soon.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.